Chapter 10, 5 days. We're coming to the end of our journey now, would you believe? It's been a roller coaster, and I'm sure listening to it, you've all found it to be a roller coaster. And I can tell you that writing what I'm going to record before I do has also been a roller coaster of emotions. It's been therapeutic, it's been difficult, it's been painful, it's been at times joyful to reflect on the connections and the relationships I had. But before we come to the end of our journey, I have another period of grief that I want to explore with you. So as I talked about in my last chapter, I had just been faced with two losses that my family and myself never saw coming. And these losses left me utterly broken. It felt as though I was wandering and walking around a world that was completely unrecognizable. It felt as though the puzzle that I talk about and that I have talked about before in the other chapters, the puzzle had completely lost all its pieces, and it felt like it was impossible to put those back together. The pain was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. And in the 3 years that followed, I stumbled, I screamed, and I somehow navigated each day. And that brings us to another reflection, because when you give yourself time and you allow yourself to look back on those first few months, those first few years of losing somebody close to you, whether you saw it coming or not, you often do have that reflection of, how on earth did I do that? How on earth did I get through each day? And you may feel a sense of pride that you did. And sometimes that can feel uncomfortable because you think, how can I feel pride when somebody that I've lost has passed away? But you can, because getting through the initial shock takes a lot of resilience. And I'm not saying resilience as in every day you have to be fine and you're able to go out of the house and you're okay. That's not what I mean. I mean, it's just getting through each day. It's just being able to make those little steps that at the time seem completely insignificant. So it could be going for a short walk. It could be getting dressed. It could be reaching out for support when you know you just can't cope. All of these show resilience in my eyes. And not being able to do these as well, that's okay, because grief is painful. Like I've said before and talked about, it is the most painful thing I think you could probably go through emotionally. And actually, sometimes it can manifest physically as well, like I've talked about. So it takes time, and sometimes it's just too painful for you to do those things. And that's okay as well. And that's a really important thing, I think, to reflect on, to give yourself that grace that you are going through this journey. And even though there's lots of people around you and they're going through their journey, your journey is unique to you. And as long as you're not hurting yourself or anyone else around you, your journey is your journey, and it's okay to go through that. So back to the end of these 3 years. So at the end of these 3 years, I turned 30 and I was navigating a whole different sense of pain, a new wave of grief, because I was trying to process the emotions that I wasn't able to have the people that I'd lost with me on my 30th. But at the same time, I was so grateful and felt joy that I had the people around me that I did to celebrate my 30th. And then alongside this, I also had the feeling and the realization that there's lots of people that I've lost who should be turning 30 who aren't going to. And that felt really hard as well. And as I was coming towards the end of being 30, my granddad, he hadn't been well anyway for a while. But actually, as the months progressed towards the end of being 30, me and my family knew the inevitable was coming. And it was incredibly painful to realize that. Again, it was that slow grief. It was that you know what's coming. Though it felt like, for the first time in 19 years, someone who was close to me was not dying suddenly. It felt like I got to experience with someone close to me them dying without it being sudden, without it being unexpected, without it being that they were too young. And I'll be honest, it felt really strange to have this, but it was also really therapeutic because my family and we got to spend those last days with my granddad at his home. We got to be together. We got to share in our grief, and it felt like there was a protective bubble around all of us. At least that's what it felt like to me. So we all spent several days in that bubble. And this also meant that I got to spend one-on-one time with my parents. And this was something that I didn't really get to do much since I moved to Essex. And this was because when I came back to my hometown to visit, which was usually just for the weekend, I tried to see as many people as I could. I tried to see my friends, the rest of my family, and it always felt quite rushed and that I didn't get enough time to see everybody, even though I wanted to. So as the days passed, we and they passed. It felt like really slowly, but we all got to spend that time together, like I said. But then slowly the grandchildren all went back to their homes in the various parts of the country that they lived. And we gave our parents that time to just be alone with our grandparents. And then a few days later, my granddad very peacefully passed away. And for the first time in those 19 years, it finally didn't feel traumatic that somebody close to me had died. And that was alien. But like I said before, it was therapeutic. Now, of course, I was devastated. I mean, he was a kind man who loved me and everybody he knew unconditionally. But it was a death as it should be. It was surrounded by family, by love, and in his own home. And the days that followed, it threw me because I was still trying to grapple with the fact this was peaceful. Because again, as I've said before, I wasn't used to this. But I soon found out I was getting too comfortable because 5 days later, that peace was absolutely shattered. In a restaurant with a close friend, I got a call and suddenly I was back to what I had been through all those years before when I got those calls. But this time, my very foundation was ripped from beneath me. My dad, my wonderful, caring, patient, and above all, kind dad, was taken from us. And it's quite poignant when I'm doing this audiobook, when I get to this chapter, and I knew this would be poignant for me and a tricky one to write and record, because my dad was also very supportive of me and my sibling, and he would always share and like and look on my website, and he bought some of my books and he always used to get me to sign them when I took them home. So I know that he would be looking down on this and really encouraging me to do this. And the hours that followed after that call were just a blur. It was a blur of more calls, texts, and headlights as my husband drove us up the M1 to Leicestershire. And I replayed the words he had said to me on the phone over and over again. I muttered to myself, but we only sat with him eating dinner and he was fine. It's something I still mutter a year on. None of us had time to really grieve Dad to begin with because we had my granddad's funeral the following week. After we had then planned my dad's and decided what that would look like, we then had his funeral 2 weeks later. And at the funeral, I saw coffins just fill the church. I saw all of them. All 18 coffins fill the church as I tried to focus on what was happening at that point. And after the service and a few months down the line from what felt like a completely different time zone and just me being, and all the family just not really still grappling and understanding what happened, I knew that I needed to reach for support, and I did. And this wasn't easy. This wasn't something that I was just like, oh, that's fine, I'm going to do that. It was really hard to do that still, even though I've had that therapy. So again, another reflection, like I've talked about before, when it comes to reaching out for support, it's not an easy thing to do always. It's okay to find it hard to do. It's okay that actually you might not be able to for a while. It's okay that you might need help to do that. It might be that actually you speak to a friend and go, I'm really struggling, but I just don't know where to turn. And they help you to find that right support. And now, as I record this audiobook, the dust is only just settling a year on. But I now, unlike in those early days, I have the tools to navigate the grief. And though, like I've explained before, every grief is different, massively different. You can take something from each grief you've been through and a way of navigating it and try different bits to use on the grief you're experiencing now. I don't know what the years ahead will bring. Of course, more grief is inevitable. It is for everybody. Though what this will feel like, I can't possibly know, and you're never going to know either. As I've said, though, this book is not meant to be a self-pity party for me. I'm hoping that this book has been for you a beacon, a voice of comfort, a voice of somebody kind of gets it, or just something to listen to help you as you are grieving, whatever it might be. I want to thank you all for listening to this, whether it's one person, whether it's 10, whether it's hardly anyone, it doesn't matter. If it's just helped one person, it's done what it needed to do. It has been a pleasure to be able to share with you, and that might sound really odd because we're talking about grief and how can you say the word pleasure, but it has for me in a way because I've been able to share as well some people's memory, and that has been very cathartic. So on behalf of myself and all those people that I've lost, I want to say thank you for listening. Please share this with anyone that you think it might help. And I really want to thank you for listening again. And so do these people too. So this book is for the following people: Barbara, Peter, Maggie, Mrs. Durning, Mrs. Leaney, Audrey, John, Ines, Josie, Ken, Suzanne, Uncle Jimmy, John, Auntie Alice, Dave, Greg, Jack, Bernard, Grandad, and Tony, Dad. Thank you very much.